So after I impulsively cut this all apart, I kind of wish I would have just left it alone. These side brackets, or these little side C channels, they're kind of bowed out here at the legs, and that was causing a lot of the side-to-side motion. Now, it was definitely still short in the width direction, which was causing this thing to rock back and forth. So in order to take up that clearance, I'm going to use this UHMW sheet that I've got left over, just some scrap, and I'm going to cut a piece and glue it right here. And one of the benefits is that I can put it in the mill and actually from the center machine the length to account for the thickness of the UHMW and the thickness of this plate, and actually get the width really, really close. And so I'll have really good side clearance. So where it's tight, but it's not so tight that it can't move around. And then for the side-to-side gap, even though I squared this up, there's still a little bit of maybe 1/16 of an inch of gap on both sides, and it was so narrow that trying to get a piece of plastic in there, I'd have to cut it down to a 1/16. And what I decided to do was I went on Mcmaster-Carr and found some nylon set screws. And so what I think I'm going to do is just tap, maybe, I haven't decided yet, maybe 2, 3, or 4 holes on each one of these legs. And then I'll just be able to adjust those set screws to take up any clearance and get a really good fit. I think it'll work good. And so I want to add attachments to this driving pin, but it's a weird size. It's like 1 9/16, a little bit bigger than that. And so I'm going to put this, when I put this in the mill to cut these sides down, I'm going to go ahead and interpolate around this with an end mill and get this to be 1.5 inches. All right, so I got this thing all cut up, cleaned up, and ready to weld together. And as you can see, or you'll see that everything that I did to make this better did not require these to be cut off. So that's fun. I don't know what the guy who cut that off was thinking. What? So on the mill, I put some quarter 20 tapped holes on the sides of these that I'm going to put those nylon set screws in so I can adjust the side-to-side slop. And I made some little brackets here. You'll have to stick around to the end of the video to find out what these are for. And I machined this boss. I got it machined centered on this piece because it wasn't really centered. And as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to machine it down to a common size, down to 1.5 inches. And originally I was going to make an adapter that went over the top of this to the 1.5 inch size, and then I could put accessories on it. But when I put this in there and machined it, it's only welded on this top side of this really thin walled tubing. And so the bottom of it, I was assuming it was welded on the other side of the tube, and so it would be relatively rigid, and it's not at all. So once I put an end mill against this, it chattered really bad. And by that time, it was already too late, and so I went ahead and machined it anyways, and so it's got some chatter marks on it, and I just was not happy about that. But while I was in there, I was trying to figure out how I'm going to make lemonade out of lemons, because I wasn't happy with that part of it. So I decided to put a 1/2 inch hole down the center and put a set screw on the side, and what I'll make is a bunch of accessories, tips for this, either long extensions, aluminum tips, wearable steel, softer steel tips. That way this boss never gets damaged or mushroomed in any way. And I think that's actually, turns out it's going to be it's a lot better than my original design, I think. And all of this I'm just doing, freestyle. I haven't designed or modeled this all up, which I normally do. So it's one reason why I'm running into all kinds of issues. because I'm not fully planning this out. I'm just kind of winging it. So it's ready now to go ahead and weld up. So I'm going to go ahead and put it all together, weld it up, and then we'll move on to the next item I have planned for the hydraulic press. So let's do it. And this is what the UHMW looks like in there. And right now it is tight, very, very tight. And so I'm gonna do a little bit of sanding. There's some high spots that kind of run up the length of the side beams on each side, and they're touching really hard on there. So just a little relief with a sander on the UHMW, I think it'll slide really good. You can see there's a small gap right there, and then it gets tight right there. And it's the same on the other side. So I think it's going to work out good. All right, something I really wanted on this hydraulic press is a storage area for just miscellaneous pieces of, little pieces of material that you would use in the press for who knows what. But I wanted it to be removable and not fixed. That way, if I ever need to lower this beam to press something really tall or something, it's not a big deal to pull it out. So I wanted to utilize these holes here, and then you'll just have a pin going through, and then like a card, like some sort of like a retaining pin on the back side that you can just pull out and slide this thing out. And I don't have it completely planned out. I have kind of an idea in my head, but I'm not going to model it, or I'm just going to kind of build it freestyle. And I've got some scrap in my scrap bin that I'm just going to pull some pieces together and throw it together, and we'll see how it turns out. All right, well, we've got pretty much all the features built and ready to go on this press, but one thing we need is some accessories and some tooling. Now, one of my good friends, Austin Bracken from Bracken Machine, gave me a good idea for something that he did on his own press. He had a whole assortment of different round tubing and square tubing of various sizes, all cut to a uniform length, and it just looked really great, and it gives you a lot of options whenever you bring something to the press to press a bearing in or something and not have to spend a ton of time trying to search for something to fit. It'll at least give you a better chance of having something ready to go, which will just save you a lot of time. So I really wanted to incorporate that, but I mean, I just couldn't think about how I was going to get all those different sizes. Well, I went to one of my local metal supply stores, and when I went in there, they had a big, drop bin, and I was able just to rummage through there and find a whole mess load of different size materials, and they just sold it to me by the pound. So it was extreme. I think I spent $20 on the majority of it. So I've got a bunch I'm gonna show you that we're gonna get all cleaned up. I'll turn them on the lathe and get the two sides, at least two sides, flat and parallel, so that they're actually, have good working surfaces. And then I want to build an extension tool right here so that I can try to limit the amount of times that I have to lower and raise this. So I want to leave a pretty decent gap here. So I'll make a little like tooling holder that'll be maybe 4 or 5 inches long, and then it'll accept different tips. I'm going to make an aluminum tip. I'm going to make a steel tip that could get marred and destroyed, and I can always just replace it, because my main objective is to make sure that this boss here, this pin, never gets deformed. And then I'm just kind of stop from there, and then as I use the press, I'll determine what kind of things I need. So let's go ahead and dress up all these. I'm going to show you all these different tubings, round and square tubes, and we'll get them all cleaned up. We'll make a couple of the accessories, and then we should be done. So let's do it. Now here's some material that I had laying around, and I think this is going to be perfect. These two pieces happen to be 1.5 inch diameter, which is exactly what the drive pin is. I'm going to make my extension holder out of this material here. I'm just going to turn down a 1 inch long, 1/2 inch diameter pin that'll fit up inside that boss. And then on this side, it'll have a 1/2 inch hole with a set screw that'll accept different tips. And I think out of this, probably maybe this one, or maybe this is just the exact same size, I'll make a steel tip. And then with this material, I'll make an aluminum tip in case I need to try to bend or tweak something and it's, a finished part and I don't want to mar it up or anything. I think it'll be nice to have that. And then I've got this tool, and if you recognize this, this is the tool that I used to put those rivets in that anvil project let me show you all these goodies I've got from the metal shop. We'll start with the square tubing. So I've got one, this is probably, I don't know, 3.5, 4 inches. And then just a bunch of different sizes, and they all fit inside one another. Now I couldn't get them all exactly the right length, so we'll need to cut them down. And I may not have them all exactly the same, but I'll try to get them all relatively close to the same height. Maybe, I don't know, I was thinking maybe, 2 inches. Obviously this one won't be 2 inches. I'll show you this round material I got. This is just great. Got all these pieces, and they all just kind of fit inside one another. Well, they will once I get them cleaned up. And I'll just put those on the lathe and face them off. Get them kind of close to the same size. They really don't need to be, just so that they kind of look good in the tray. One extension right here, so that will just go up into the boss, and then I can just have that little bit extra length. And then here's my little removable tips or wearable tips. Here's a steel one, and it'll just go up inside there, set screwed in. An aluminum one for non-marring applications, and then just to repurpose this little rivet drive tool I made in case I need to press something really small. And then just some random scrap that I had. I have no idea what I need, but whenever that day comes, I'll be able to use this or not use it or modify it. So just a couple aluminum blocks. I squared them up so they look real nice. Obviously, it's not extremely necessary to do that, but it looks good. And that's half the fun. And then I just had this bar laying around, and I wanted a holder to organize all these different tips, because I'm sure I'm going to make different ones down the road. And so I didn't want them just rolling around on that little shelf that we built. So it'll hold 2 more, because I think I'll probably have a longer one of these. And it's heavy enough that it's not going to tip over if I have really long tools. And so I think this will work out pretty good. It's pretty simple, basic. I think it'll look nice. And then in the future, I'm sure I'll have different types of needs, and I'll make the tooling at that point. But I'd like to go ahead and just put it on the shelf and see what it looks like. And I'm sure I'll have more round material of different diameters at some point, probably for pushing out different types of bushings and bearings. So maybe I'll leave the back for just miscellaneous aluminum or square blocks, and then round. But as this evolves over time, I'll probably change it, but it's not a bad little lineup to start off with. Now, since I've done so much to this, it's only appropriate for me to put my name on it. And I think it should go right there. Let's try it. Hey, well, here we are at the end of the project. I had such a great time building all of these cool features, and I just can't wait to use it. And when I come up here with a job, to be pretty prepared for whatever tasks I have to do. And I'm hoping that you watching this video gave you some ideas to improve your shop press as well. If I can make any recommendation, it would be for all of you to make this handle holder. It's probably one of the best improvements of this press that I enjoy the most, and it's really cheap and easy to do. And down in the description, I'll leave the part number for Mcmaster-Carr of where to get these. But you know, if you like these types of videos, I've got a lot more projects planned ahead. So please subscribe, hit that like button, and I'll catch you on the next one. So just when I thought I was done, last night I got to thinking about these holes on both sides of this press plate and how things can still fall down onto the tray. And you know, I was like, I really want to cover those up, but I just really want to be done. And so this morning I got up and I was like, well, I'll go look in my shed, in my aluminum pile, and just see what I have laying around. And look what I found. These two pieces, and they almost darn near fit. So you know what I got to do, right? I've got to make those fit.